So I would say from newborn to 2, we definitely didn't have any signs that there was anything wrong. And then all of a sudden, things changed. Yeah. And we noticed it was just a regression. It was like an overnight regression. The things that he did normally with no problems, we just kind of noticed that he didn't anymore. Hi fam. So I want to just kind of jump right into a couple of the questions that I usually always get regarding Emmanuel and his diagnosis in autism. So the very first question is, were there any signs? Did you have any signs from the beginning that let you know something may be wrong, or that it may have been autism? And then the second question is the follow-up. How did you handle the diagnosis, and what were the next steps, right? So this is going to be part 1 of that. And I'm definitely going to bring in his dad, my husband, so that we can do this together, because there was a journey that we kind of both went on. And so we'll definitely do a part 2 and follow up on that, and kind of go a little bit more in depth on that journey. But starting off, I had no complications with birth. It was easy going. We can talk about that on the next video, but it was literally a semi-party bringing Emmanuel in, and he was 7 pounds, and just a happy baby. Like, Emmanuel was pretty happy.
Right now. I do.
He didn't do a lot of crying. He didn't do, he was a pretty, happy baby, and always smiling. And I'm going to kind of throw some clips around in here so that you can kind of see. Everything went well from the beginning, and he's a baby at this time, so you're not really seeing, or I didn't see, signs of him of anything being wrong, right? He hit all of his milestones, pretty advanced on that as well. So he was eating with no problem.
I'm gonna go in there to go get some money. Then he didn't put my name down there. She said, well, this is...
He started walking before he reached 2. He started taking his first steps before the age of 2. And a couple months before the age of 2, he also started talking and saying a few words before he hit 2 as well. And so we definitely didn't think anything was wrong. He was kind of ahead of the curve on that. And then all of a sudden things changed. He regressed. And it was kind of an overnight regression. So he went and had his a 2-year checkup with his pediatrician. And again, at this time, he's, no changes. He had his shots, and then we definitely noticed a change after then. Now, I don't want to go into the discussion about the shots. I know everyone has their different opinions about that. Research is being shown that, shots don't affect or not the cause of it. But there are also a lot of groups out there and parents out there that believe differently. And so that's not really the discussion for this. But we definitely saw a regression. So after the shots, I would say within days, we kind of just saw changes where he wasn't saying the words. He wasn't saying bye. He wasn't saying daddy. He wasn't saying some of the things that he was before. And he would go off to himself a lot. He'd like to be in his own space. Also, he started to stimming. And so the stimming would be him flapping his arms, this motion here. He walked on his tiptoes all the time. And the lining up of his things, his toys, his shoes, like everything was in a perfect line. And so I think we both noticed it. But actually his pediatrician is kind of who put that thought in our head. Like, we knew something was wrong. At that point, I knew something was wrong, something was different. I wasn't able to put the vocabulary to it. I did think about autism because I had been exposed to autism before. It's amazing how life happens. My godson, when I was 19, his name is Granger. He was the first individual that I met that was on the spectrum, and he had severe autism. Such a beautiful soul, and I just grew extremely close to him. But he was the very first child and the first time I was ever exposed to what autism was. And I seen the ups and downs that his mother went through. Her and I were very close. And I met her working at a job, and she wasn't able to keep that job because she was always having to leave work to tend to him, to get him out of school, and people always thought she was just leaving her job, but it's the demand that came with parenting her child was severe. And that was the first time that I was exposed, and I took him to church with me, and I took him everywhere with me, and I knew he was extremely different, but I also knew I loved him, and there was such a bond that I had with Granger. And so the Granger was there, and then I moved away and I went to college, and then I met my next god nephew, which is from another good friend of mine, and he was on the spectrum. He had autism, and I just grew to him too. I always clinged to my babies on the spectrum. I always paid attention to them. He was extremely good in any kind of physical activity, running, strength. He did Special Olympics. And I came into his life when he was probably like 10 or 11. And right now he's thriving as a 26-year-old, working and doing things for himself and cooking for himself. And I'm just so proud every time I see the young man that he's grown into. And then also my husband's sister, just child is on the spectrum as well. And so that is how my husband was introduced to autism. And so we kind of knew about it, but for myself, I can't tell you that I was actually thinking about having my child be on the spectrum. And so pretty much what happened, he went back to his 3rd year checkup, and it was right before he turned 3. And while evaluating him, he wasn't hitting his milestones. He wasn't saying 50 words. And so after those evaluations and those questions, our pediatrician is the one who actually said, have you looked into autism? Let's look into getting him diagnosed. Now at this time, this was 2020. This was early 2020. And so this was COVID. And he let me know that there was going to be a waiting list to get him diagnosed. And sometimes it's up to a year that he's seen some of his clients go through, and to prepare myself for a journey. And so he gave me the information and who I needed to reach out to in my community, in my area, to get diagnosed. And they will kind of help me along the way with the resources. And so his doctor is who kind of put the word autism out there and wanted us to go that route, because of the stimming that he saw and the words and things like that, his lack of communication, his nonverbal. He was nonverbal at this time. Just noises and sounds. He made his noises and he made his sounds, but nothing else. And so that was the process. But I can tell you, I know a lot of parents have different experiences and how hard it is to get diagnosed and things like that. And it's always, urged to do it earlier than later, because the sooner you have that intervention, the better it can be. And I definitely agree with that. And so I was anticipating, but I'm a believer. And if you are not, that's just fine. I don't have to love you for you don't have to be a believer for me to love you, but I am a Christian. And I believe God just lined things up for us to where, it just went easy. I was anticipating a long wait, and literally by the time my son left that appointment and I called, everybody was so accommodating and so wonderful. And he had a coach assigned to him and came to our home because he couldn't get diagnosed until he was 3. And so that was months away. It was like June or July. And so we had about 5 months to go until his birthday. In November. And so we had a coach to come to our home. It didn't take forever for an appointment. Just for them coming out and analyzing and doing the assessment, she kind of agreed. And I'm going to do a video on her later. But she was the driving force. Her name was Lori. And she was probably the most open person that I've been so open with about how I felt. And she helped me like no other. And I've been blessed to have a lot of people come in our lives with Emmanuel over time that have been so beneficial. And I tell everyone that works with me, like, we're all a community. And everyone has a hand in him becoming the young man that he's becoming. But she was just so beneficial. Excuse me. She was so beneficial. And Lori was everything. And she helped me. And she came to the house. Again, this was during COVID. We wore a mask. We did exercises. She let me know about ABA therapy early. She gave me booklets, which I still have. I actually have it right here. Anyway, I'll bring that out later. But she gave me booklets and things that I could learn, and I read these booklets. She told me to talk myself, to be his first advocate. The advice that she gave me, I still use to this day. And it's the best advice that anyone has ever given me. And so the reason I was able to connect with her so well is because it's not to take away from the professionals that don't have a child on the spectrum, but she was the mother of a child on the spectrum, and her child was young. And so she was able to give me insight that I wasn't able to get from just a professional. She was a mother too. And she just told me, be ready, be prepared, take your moment. It's okay to have a moment, because you're going to have some hard days, but you got to keep at it for them. And what she gave me was just invaluable, because I needed it. And she helped him get into preschool. She set up everything for me, his diagnosis, the meetings with his diagnostician, his preschool, and all of that led to where our baby is today. And so, yeah, like, she was just everything, right? I owe her so much. But yeah, that is how that started. And so he was diagnosed at 3, and we've been on that journey ever since then. And the diagnose, because she kind of prepared me before I had someone to actually tell me he has autism, I had already kind of prepared myself for it. And again, I was exposed to it. I knew at that moment my life changed forever, but for the better. I knew that everything was going to be different because I have a son that's neurotypical. So I knew everything was going to be different, but all I wanted to do is make sure that I was what he needed to get to where he needed to be. So that I wanted to make sure that I was what he needed, that I was the mother that he needed to make sure that he was able to get to where he should be in life. And it's been a lot of long days. It's been a lot of crying days. It's been a lot of wailing. It's been some depression moments, but I don't want that to override the great moments as well. I celebrate every victory. I just realized I didn't have my mic in. And I can't go back and do that because everything I just gave you was so real. But yes, there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of not knowing, unsure. But y'all, there have been so many great days and so many proud moments. And, you know, I wouldn't trade this for anything. The diagnosis was hard, but I was more prepared for it. I didn't like the fact that I was told that my son was going to be different, because I knew it was going to be harder for him. That was the most difficult part. I knew that life was going to be harder for him. And my goal from there to now is to make sure that it's not as hard for him. I'm going to make sure he's good. We have great family around us, support systems. His dad, we make sure he's good. We don't treat him differently in this house. We treat him like our child. That's it. Not a child on the spectrum. We understand that there are certain things about him that's different. We understand he's not typical. We understand that we have to be patient on certain things. But treating him like he has a disability is something we don't do. We just acknowledge the disability and we accommodate for it. And I think that's a part of him learning the way he has. And I'm just so grateful for everybody that's come in our life, because again, I know I wouldn't be here without everyone that was involved. So yeah, part 1. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2 when the hubby is here, and we can kind of indulge into this after the diagnosis so he can give his version. He's thriving with autism. He's just different. He's learning differently. He's super smart though. You know, our kiddos are super smart. They have things that they're great at. And so he's taught me how to teach him. And that's what my son has taught me. He's taught me patience on a whole nother level. He's taught me how to teach him from focus play. We've done focus play from the beginning. That was also instrumental. I didn't think that it would be, but Lori introduced that to me early. And that was the start. And it was very, I mean, it was groundbreaking too. And so, yeah. One of the things that sticks out to me, and I'm going to end this video, because my son has been nonverbal. I don't say he's nonverbal now. He's 6. He communicates. We know what he wants. We know when he's upset. We know when he's sick. He's not actively communicating back and forth, but he's able to communicate and give us sentences. He's able to let us know when something is not right. He still repeats some things that we say, but we know he's on that track, and we see his vocabulary growing, and he's taking speech therapy every week, and he's starting ABA therapy. And my goal is not to change my baby. I don't want him fitting in with anybody. I want him to be able to live his life in this society and be who he is. And that's my goal. And 2 things I just want to bring up before I cut this off was, when Manny was 3, right around the time he was diagnosed, he would get up and kind of have night sweats, nightmares. I don't really know what to call them, but he would get up out of his sleep at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, scare the mess out of me, yelling and hollering, like it was a nightmare, you know. And I would be so terrified at that moment. I never turned on the lights, you know. He never allowed me to hold him. I couldn't console him like that then. He's gotten much more open about that since then. But then I couldn't just hold him. He would allow me to do that at certain times, or not for a very long time. And so he would get up in the middle of the night and he would cry. And it would be a silent cry when he looked at me, and he would hold my face and look at me and just cry because he couldn't communicate. He couldn't tell me what was wrong. I know it was frustrating for him because it was like deja vu every time it happened. He did the same thing. And I cried to him and I told him, your mom is going to figure out how to talk to you. I'm going to figure out how we're going to communicate. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to do it. And we did it, and we're still doing it. And I communicated him, my love language was love. I was so affectionate with him today. Don't let anybody tell you kids on autism are not affectionate, because Emmanuel will will give you kisses until you can't take anymore. He'll rub your face. He'll do that with the people that he loves. So that was how I told him I loved him. I told him I loved him every day. I was extremely affectionate with him because that's the only communication that I had. And it paid off. I talked to him as though he knew what I was saying, even when people told me I was crazy. It paid off. You can figure out what works for you and your baby. I'm so glad that I did what I did and did how I did it. So that now everything that I learn is just, I build on it. But I had to learn what works for us, and he helped teach me what works for him. He let me know what he likes. Music, he likes music. He's a Gestalt learner. Melody, he likes melody. And so I teach to him, I sing to him what I want him to learn. And so those are moments that just stick out to me, that keep me going when I didn't think I could keep going. And yeah. So until the next time, I appreciate you for your time. And if you have not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that every time we drop in a video, you can follow through. Again, for all of my parents that are taking care of our babies on the spectrum, or with any kind of learning disabilities, or I hate to say disabilities, but any kind of, any issues, right? If your kid is on the spectrum, if your kid has any kind of disability, then just know that you're appreciated and you are loved. Yeah, just keep thriving. hang in there. It gets better, right? She was signing off. Till the next one.